there's a lot of politics in birth, and a lot of those politics are feminine politics and, patriarchal politics. And so, like, I was starting to feel the rage that you're talking about, and seeing that, at that time, very, I guess, myopically, right? Seeing that the problem was what we call the patriarchy. That's how I understood it then. The problem is the patriarchy, which AKA means the problem is men. And that was a very blanketed statement. I've sifted through that since then, but at the time it was like, this is the problem. And then I started to feel hatred, like raging hatred towards the masculine. And really, it's towards the toxic masculine, right? But I couldn't identify that then. And I remember being in the garden and just screaming like somebody had died, and just horrified, outrageously horrified by the the harm, the violence, the pain, the traumas, that have resulted or have have been inflicted as a result of the system that we are a part of, and we happen to call that system a patriarchal system. And I felt so trapped in it, and I felt like there was no way out, and there was no way that I could ever open up to the masculine. And then I realized, not only was I married at the time, but unhappily so in that moment, but I had two boys. And I just started grieving because I realized I can't hate the masculine. Because if I hate the masculine, it means I'll hate my boys. And that was like a turning point for me, because it was like, no, there's something I'm missing here. There's something more to this story, like my anger is righteous, my anger is appropriate, and I'm sad about that. Like, I'm sad. For me, it was like, I'm sad about the violence that women have endured in labor and delivery. I'm sad about the way our children are born into this world. I'm sad about the way that the women's bodies are controlled, and that they're, violently touched, and like, and in the most sacred, intimate moments of our lives. I'm sad about that, and I'm angry because, generally speaking, it seems to be that it's the masculine doing it more so than the feminine. And then, there are, of course, there are women that are trained within that masculine system, and they just continue to repeat those patterns to belong. So I knew in that moment I had to heal this. If I'm going to raise boys, if I raise boys and I hate the masculine, then I'm going to raise feminine boys, or I'm going to, raise my boys to not be proud to be men. And in the end, I did a lot of that for many years. Like, I really didn't want them to be masculine, and they went through a phase of feeling really ashamed about being young men, being boys. And that broke my heart, because I realized that instead of celebrating them and the potential of the masculine, like, what is the power and the healthy side of the masculine, and how can I raise my boys that way, and how can their father raise them that way? Because I'm not that, so it shouldn't be my job, but what is it? And that kind of sent me on the quest of, like, the patriarchy it's a system of oppression. It's a name we've given it, but it's not a blanketed term to mean the men or the masculine, it is a domineering system that we happen to be in. And I realized that I needed to separate men from that. I needed to
Mhm.
separate the masculine from the system that I'm living within, because the system I'm living within has destroyed the men.
Mhm.
They're also victim to this system.
Yeah.
And I had to come to see that, wait a minute, the reason why we're in this isn't because of men. The reason why we're in this is because we're also wounded by it. We're all wounded by it to some degree, some of us severely,
Mhm.
and some of us maybe less so, but we've all been wounded by this system that we have to exist within, which is, if you read Derek Jensen's book, The Culture of Make Believe, or Endgame, if you read
Mhm.
any of his books, you understand it's a system of violence and oppression.
Mhm. Yeah.
It is built on fear and violence. And if you can rise up and meet that and not be afraid of violence and hatred and fear, if you can kind of step into that and play the game of it, then you're rewarded.
Mhm.
And so it feeds itself. But the system we're trapped in is not a system of love. It's not a system of reverence. It's not a system of reciprocity, which are all very deeply Indigenous values. It's not a system of honoring the feminine and the masculine. It's not a system of congruence and coherence and harmony. It's not a system of caretaking, right?
Mhm.
It really truly is a system of violence, hatred, harm, individuation and individuality, and consumption, consumerism, and capitalism, right? We're motivated by the pursuit of money,
Mhm.
and that there's no brakes on that. We can do whatever we want to pursue it.